I'm gonna miss it, but I wanna be in the loop, so, yeah.
All right, it is 10 o'clock. We will call the meeting to order, and just for everybody's information, Steve is having some family time and he'll be not here today. He's having too much fun. So if we can rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We've got a time for public forum. Is there anybody that would like to speak? Come on up, Gus.
I don't want this to be part of the 3 minutes to begin with. I just want to say thank you to Matt for his generosity to the Sandstone Township. We were able to finish the town hall, to be able to use it for meetings. And we have septic, we have water, we have lights, air, and people attending. So,
Well, it's the whole board did it. So.
yeah, we all appreciate that. I'm here to say that. So what I have to say to the board is land was taken under, and this has to do with your items 3 and 4. Land was taken under tax forfeiture in Pine County and either sold and all the money is kept even above the tax that was owed, or the land was put into memorial forest and the resources from that land, gravel or timber were harvested by the county under this board's directions. The resolution 2024-24 directs more of the funds from the sale to be used to clean up property that is tax forfeited. That's not a reason to keep more of the money. Now, whether this is timber and gravel being taken from the land or the sale of the property itself isn't clear. Either way, it's theft. That's quite a manipulation of the law to keep more of the money claiming land is blighted. This process began with you, Steve Hallen, and the idea of making Pine County a recreational area using the tax forfeited lands for that purpose is short-sighted at best. The county's appetite for profiting from tax forfeited land has grown immensely since its capturing and holding land began almost 15 years ago. It's grown to 40,000 acres. In 2021, Commissioner Terry Lufgren, who was assigned by Chair Steve Hallen to the Land and Zoning Committee, made a motion to approve Resolution 2021-15, keeping more of the tax forfeited land and timber sales proceeds at the county for parks, recreation, and blighted properties. Clearing that land for recreation and making it habitable encourages squatters who will turn Pine County into the next blighted homeless encampment, like is evident all over the Twin Cities. Was that ever a thought? Maybe it was. If these memorial forest lands are developed for camping, you can count on more people using more of Pine County welfare services and demanding rights to polls so they can vote for the people who made these recreational areas. Because the vouching system in Minnesota, it would only take one person to vouch for 8 squatters, then those 8 vouch for 8 more, and on and on. And as far as naming memorial forests for veterans, I'm the proud mother of 5 veterans, the wife of a veteran and the daughter of a veteran. I'm a Blue Star mother. I guarantee neither my children, myself, my husband, nor my father would feel honored by having this misuse of land named for their service. If you want to honor veterans, give them this land, give them tax breaks, honor them and their service to the country, which was and is paid for in their blood and sacrifice. They protect the right to own and feel safe on this land. How many veterans' lands were sold by Pine County and all profit kept by the county?
Does anybody else that would like to speak at public forum? Do you want to speak at public forum?
Anyway, I'm Dale Kirchberg. I had sent a letter to the county here a while back, and I'm talking in regards to the public lands also. I'm straight out east Rutabaga Road. Been out there for many years. Plan to move out there this fall. And just east of me, we got a 360 acre tract of land that county has. We understand out there that you're gonna be putting a parking lot in for these people again. I don't think you people realize what goes on out there. I wish some of you would take the time to go out and drive. I can go out there now and I guarantee I can pick up trash. We do it all the time. My kids, my grandkids, we 4-wheel up in there in the Maggie and whatnot. They're always bringing trash out. When you go up on that 360, I personally haven't witnessed, but some of my neighbors are, there are TVs dumped off in the north up there. There are computers out there that have been thrown off. There's numerous deer stands. There's no policing of any of this stuff. And we're surrounded around there. We've invested, we've made these payments and the taxes all these years. I don't feel the public is entitled to come in and trash and use these places for nothing. Number one, deer hunting is the big thing. As we all know, the DNR, nobody wants to recognize the wolves and the coyotes and on and on. We invest in food plots. We put a lot of time out there. Nobody at our camp got a deer last year. I think within a 5-mile radius, maybe 6 deer were taken. But the point is, the human race has proved himself. They're nothing but a bunch of pigs for the most part. It's continually trash all the time out there. The poaching, I don't care what time it is at night. There's gunshots going off. You see lights out there. Nobody's policing this stuff, and I don't expect you to, but the point is, it needs to be policed. We've invested all this out there, and we just don't want it. I'm in the process of getting a petition for this. I haven't quite got all the details, but I got many people want to sign this, and whether it goes anywhere or not, but we feel enough is enough. And not to pick on anybody, but we got a lot of foreigners coming in up there. And about a month ago, I met with the Moose Lake DNR, and I told them, some of the things we see up there. They come in, they got all these new trucks and four-wheelers, they litter, they poach nonstop, and it don't matter what time of year or day or what season. They just plain do what they want. And basically I was told, quote, yeah, we know about that. Where are we gonna go? I guess it kind of brings up another little bit of a subject. Pine County doesn't seem to have much of a ordinance in,
Yeah, it's 3 minutes.
oh, I didn't know about that either. I go back and start over?
Be granted more time. If it's a reasonable amount of time. I'm taking notes here. This is all, I had asked before about what the public interest was this.
Excuse me,
For
can I
this.
give him my 3 minutes?
This time you can, yes.
No, I'm gonna give him.
Oh, hey,
I'll give him my 3 minutes.
I see what. Where was I going with this?
You talked to DNR. And
Yeah, and basically we're,
Oh.
thank you. Thank you. If you've never really been out that way, you've got to take and drive around. But now that the foliage and the leaves are out, it's much better. But there is so many fallen down cabins, trailer houses. I mean, there's places where they brought a trailer house in and it's mouse infested. Then they pull another one in, then another one. It's turning into the armpit of Pine County as far as I'm concerned out in those areas. And we need to come up with something to take care of that. I don't want to be Edina for Christ's sakes, but we got to have something in place. There are no rules. And when I talked to an assessor about a year ago, the minimum value is $100 on an old fallen down shack and up. Well, let's put 20, 30,000 on it. Let those people know, make them clean them up. Just a suggestion. Point is, something needs to be done. I have friends, people that come out to see me once in a while in the comments. Oh my God, there's some, excuse me, assholes around here. It's not good. Other than that, I don't know. I think my 3 minutes are up, but thank you again for that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
so we are on adopting the agenda and we have some additions.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dave Menke, County Administrator. Just one addition, if you could add number 6 on the consent agenda, the promotion of Correction Officer Chantel Schumacher, effective May 17th.
So we have an addition. Are there any other additions for the board? We have a motion to accept the agenda.
I'll move the agenda with the additions.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Matt. Once again, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. we need to approve the minutes from May seventh, regular meeting and the summary for publication, and then May 14th, the special meeting, committee of the whole.
No move, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Matt.
I'll second.
Thanks, Josh. We have a first and a second. Are there any questions on any of those?
I have a question on the minutes of May 14th.
Okay,
It says there was a recess called at 9:20. And there wasn't.
is that where I called it tonight? I said, take five, I'm gonna walk Melanie, I'm gonna walk them to the door.
Yeah, I think you just said you're gonna walk somebody else, but I didn't know if there was following procedure, if you actually have to call an actual recess and usually wouldn't the vice chair take over the meeting? You make an announcement, or I'm just following what I interpret as the following Robert's rule.
I'll check into that because I've got the book at home, so I'll check into that, JJ, and see if I see
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
Yeah, just because we didn't conduct any business when you were gone, and I just want to follow if the vice chair was supposed to.
Yeah, I
Over it.
was, but I said that we're gonna take a 5-minute break, so, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Okay.
Opposed? Motion carried. Minutes of the board, committees and correspondence.
There are none, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. And then we need to approve the consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions on the consent agenda? I can have a motion to accept it.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Thank you. And a second, Josh, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Thanks, Matt. Got a first, second again, questions on the consent agenda?
I have a question on number 4, the timber auction results.
Okay,
Maybe David probably know, that was forfeited land? Or was it other county land, you know, over
No, it-
forest
Madam Chair, Commissioner Waldem, it was tax forfeited land.
tax forfeited land?
any other questions?
Yeah, the follow-up to this would be, so there was a sale for $282,804.95 off of tax forfeited land. How does that play into what just happened with our, the state having to decide how they're gonna move forward with the monies?
Yeah.
Did you get anything? I understand there was like a 1,400-page bill or something at the last minute.
Sure. So I can speak to the timber auction. So since the Tyler versus Hennepin County decision from the US Supreme Court came down, we've been very cognizant of that. And it's been clear that the results of that will only apply to recent forfeitures. And we didn't know if it was going to be 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. So any activity we've done since that decision came down has been on properties that forfeited a long, long time ago. So, I mean, in the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s. So none of this is subject to anything from the Tyler versus Hennepin County.
Is there like a statute of limitations or something on it? Was what they're,
Well, there was a discussion on statute of limitations, but then within the legislature, there was a settlement made. And like for us, it only goes back to 2016.
so 2016 would be the date.
Right? Anything that's
20
forfeited since 2016 going forward is subject to that settlement agreement that the state has entered.
Okay, and then there was no word on anybody's appealing anything further or anything, because there was like 190 million set aside for
109, yes.
109.
Yes, and I mean, that was a negotiated deal between the attorney who brought forward the potential class action and this state.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we had a motion and a second. All those in favor of accepting the consent agenda? Say aye.
Hey,
Opposed?
second. Our movement, was it, you move it? Thought we already did.
We already did, yeah, we just said all those in favor.
Aye, I thought you were asking for.
Motion carried. On to the regular agenda. We've got the Personnel Committee report.
Want me to take a man? Yeah, go ahead. All right, we did meet May 13th, and the Personnel Committee made the following recommendations. In the Highway Department, reappoint current Public Works Director, County Engineer Mark LeBrun, as the county engineer for the period of May 31st, 2024 to May 31, 2028. In the sheriff's office, jail acknowledged the resignation of corrections officer Matt Seaman effective May 24th, 2024, and approved the backfill of the position, any subsequent vacancies that may occur due to internal promotion or lateral transfer. And acknowledge the resignation of jail sergeant Travis Keller effective May 28, 2024, and approve the backfill of the position, any subsequent vacancies that may occur due to internal promotion or lateral transfer. In the auditor's treasurer's office, acknowledge the resignation of environmental technician Jeremy Williamson effective May 31st, 2024, and approve the backfill of the position, any subsequent vacancies that may occur due to internal promotion or lateral transfer. And in administration, approve the revised county policy 7.9 to reflect elimination of the employee choice to fund their healthcare savings plan, HCSP. I will move that and everything else we can.
I will second, Madam Chair, with some comments.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got a first by Josh, a second by Matt. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I just would like to note on the correction officer recommendations, both were 9-year veterans. And there was no issue in the jail or anything. One was moving to Arkansas. And the other one was just moving to work closer to home. So yeah, that kind of thing is expected. We always kind of try to track through something, but it was just normal.
Answer one of my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, the one was actually a promotion, a big promotion for him.
Oh, wow.
That he was working for one of the vendors that supplies the jail. So, yeah. So it's good when they go on, they're bigger, better.
And then the sergeant that was retired, that was the add-on bill that we did in the addition.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So I have a question about revising county policy 7.9, where you can put money into your healthcare savings plan. Is there a,
Yeah, Madam Chair.
I think there's got to be a good
Thank
reason for it.
thank you for the question. So this is based on, our plan administrator is MSRS, the Minnesota State Retirement System, and they will no longer, their understanding of the IRS requirements is they can no longer process voluntary contributions to the healthcare savings plans. That's always been the rule. That has not always been their interpretation of the rule. And so we have a policy that allows employees to voluntarily elect to transfer up to 2 weeks of their PTO into their healthcare savings plan. That is the piece that they will no longer process because it doesn't conform with the IRS rules. We still have the option if employees have personal days remaining at the end of the year. I think December 1st might be the date. But if there are unused personal days, those will roll into the HCSP. And when employees leave employment, if they have a PTO balance, half of it will roll into their HCSP. And those instances, the employee has no choice. They're in policy, they happen based on conditions. This one was the choice where, as an employee, I could choose to have some of my PTO go or not go.
Okay,
Is that helpful?
it is very helpful. Thank you. I was one of the employees that appreciated that, so I was just kind of curious. So thank you. We have April 2024 disbursements claims over $2,000. This is on here because. Oh, I'm sorry.
The further questions?
Okay, yes.
Matt's inquiry answered the one question of the reason resignations, which makes perfect sense to me. Standard resignation. Look, Jeremy. I mean, Jeremy worked for Caleb.
Quite a while, too.
And I know there's been some transitions there. in
Yes,
that department.
so really Jeremy drives a long ways, about an hour and 20 minutes one way. And so he received an offer for a position where it's work from home. And so that is a very appealing offer.
Right.
Spend 2.5+ hours a day in the car.
Sure. Okay, thank you. And I just had another question. For a sergeant, how long does it take to make sergeant? Maybe somebody military could answer that. I mean, in the military, but here.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Walt, if you're referring to jail sergeant,
Yeah,
that,
for the new.
Yeah, I-
promotion.
I don't know if Sheriff Nelson is able to address that or if we'll need to ask Rod that question and follow up after the meeting.
I don't have the numbers. Okay. One number we can.
But I'm just trying to keep up with my notes. So would like previous experience be considered for that, or is it actually like years of service at our county?
It's
I
a
think-
process, so it's time in, it's an interview, it's a selection process. It's not strictly based on time at the jail. It's performance based, it's experience based, it's like history based and whatever they bring to the interview.
And that's a union position, correct?
Yes.
Is there a clause in the union that says if all qualifications are equal, seniority will prevail, or is there not such a?
I would imagine there is, everyone I looked at has something to be, if everything's equal, that there will be a seniority based. I can't say for sure.
Sure. Okay, yeah, I'd just be curious as to tenure, how long that employee has been here for making that sergeant rank, I guess, just to try to understand it.
Well, the jail staff is incredibly
Young, yeah.
so. Again, with years of experience, it's all relevant.
So it could even just be months employed at the county, and you just rapidly make it up the rank fast, I guess, is what it could be.
I can't comment.
All right, thank you.
I'll just add another comment. There's a probationary period even on the new promotion. Right?
Yeah, you hire.
You know, it'll be a performance, yeah. So doesn't work
Oh,
out.
so it almost starts over like when
Yeah.
you first come here, then when you,
Yeah.
well, I got you. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we have a motion by Josh, a second by Matt. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we'll go to the April 2024 disbursements and claims over $2,000. The reason for this is because we have more auto part Napa, is that what it's called?
More parts. and-
More parts, thank you. For $3,356.35. So we need to make a motion and approve this so that we can purchase parts. Josh's store.
I'll move that.
Thank you, Matt. Do we have a second? I'll second that. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Now abstain.
Motion carried. Thank you. And we are on number 3, consider motion to rescind resolution 2024-24, resolution to set aside tax forfeited timber sales. JJ, do you want to talk to this one since you guys have this put back on?
Yeah, when I'd asked before and tying this to what we discussed briefly with Kelly, with what was going on at legislature, down at the Capitol, and just based off of what I'm finding out now publicly. Because I'd asked at a meeting, a couple meetings back, what's the need for this? Who's asking for it? And I was just told it was a public interest. The only public interest I'm getting is to not have a competition of camping land, camping grounds with Nemadji Forest, General Andrews Forest, St. Croix Forest, Chengwatana, not to mention the other state and county lands that are out there. People are strongly feeling it's just a duplication of services. There already is an abundance of land that could be used for hunting. There currently is a petition going around. It was going around at the time when I inquired about it. Again, there was no information given about, any opposition to this. And it just basically reads, us as landowners here in Pine County, and especially the northeast portion, do not want parking lots put on county properties in our area. It's only an invite for more littering, poaching, trespassing, disrespect, disputes over boundaries, noise, traffic, et cetera, et cetera. We believe the commissioners should be selling off these parcels to promote individuals and get them on the tax roll to generate income to help alleviate the ever increasing tax burden that we all are enduring these days. So in light of that, and just the fact of the other public speakers that came in under with the public forum, that's the reason why I had asked for that, because I cannot support something like that.
So did you want to make a motion or
Yes.
something that you wanted to do?
Here, the motion to rescind resolution 2024-24.
So do we have a second? Do we have a second to rescind resolution 2024? One more time, do we have a motion to rescind resolution 2024-24? So the motion died with no second.
Thank you.
Mhm. Classifying additional tax forfeited properties. Kelly, thank you.
Kelly Schroeder, County Auditor Treasurer. We spoke a little bit about Tyler, Hennepin County, situation this morning. And back when we were working on our land sale in February, we didn't know what the outcome of that was going to be. And we had the city of Sandstone that had approached us about a couple parcels that they had wanted off of the tax forfeit list. That were houses, and they have developed a really unique rehab program in the city of Sandstone. However, not knowing the outcome of that Tyler versus Hennepin County lawsuit or pending lawsuit, we had told them that we just couldn't move forward at that time. Well, now we have the settlement language, and the settlement language basically gives us a fire sale on these properties. We need to unload them. The deadline to unload them is 2029, but the sooner we unload them, the better. So with that, since the city of Sandstone had already expressed interest in these parcels, we would ask that you classify them as non-conservation, which would allow us to start that process of selling or transferring them to the city. And Greg and I are working through the list too of other properties that are subject to the settlement to see, are there properties that we should be moving on now and adding to September, or what we can do. Right, but these we wanted to get moving because we know that, I mean, there was already interest, and these are 3 houses in the city of Sandstone. 2 of which need significant repair.
Are there any comments or questions for Kelly?
Yeah, so what happens there with proceeds?
Yeah, so the settlement language says as long as we sell them by 2027, we have to send those proceeds to the settlement fund. However, we can retain 25% for our costs. The longer you let that go closer to 2029, we get to retain less and less of that proceeds. Otherwise, they just go to the settlement fund.
JJ, you had a question too?
Yeah, I have a question. So the land that you're now proposing to sell, so that would fall under the where you keep proceeds, 20% for parks and recreation, 5% for blight cleanup, 5% for timber development, even though.
Likely not. So we're gonna have to work through our legal counsel of if that resolution can apply, because these are subject to that settlement. And that settlement doesn't reference the statute that allows those set asides, but we will work with Reese on if it will apply or not. But the settlement says that if we sell them by 2027, we will retain 25% to help cover our costs.
Okay, and just to keep on subject here, I show right here in the land committee minutes, there is right now a timber sale balance, a 20% balance. Maybe Dave can clarify it. As of 12/31/23, there's $605,848.55. That's the balance of the 20% that's been obtained and saved?
Of the parks and recreation dollars, yes. And the initial thought behind those dollars were, we were working on the Star Trail process. Do we want to use our highway dollars to do that, or would we rather use these dollars to do that. And the thought was that we would rather see us use these dollars than take funds away from our highway department.
Okay, so 605,848.55 is 20% of the sales of forfeited land.
Right.
Okay, as of,
The last 5 years, probably 4 or 5 years.
okay, so from 2016 to now is, so it's well within that time frame of,
No,
Right.
that's not land that was forfeited. That was forfeited before 2016. So that's all I meant.
but the sales were after 16, okay.
Right, so the subject to the settlement are literally we forfeited on that date. Because I've gotten some calls from people who said, oh, how do I get on this? Well, you forfeited before that date. So unfortunately, the settlement won't apply to them.
So with the 605,848, and then there's a blight cleanup balance of 275,550, and then a timber development. I don't know what that would go for. Timber development.
Yeah, so that,
Balance of 174. So you're looking at $1 million sitting here off of forfeited land.
right, and each of those funds has a specific purpose. So like the blight, literally, we get these properties in significant disrepair. And it can be very costly to clean up. If there's a asbestos in a building that we want to tear down, that money can go so fast. We had a well on a property that was well over $100,000 to seal, that had to be sealed. And so that funds can go very fast in the blight fund when we have we get properties that we have to address. And then the timber development has allowed us over the years to, for example, purchase easements into properties. It has allowed us to build forest roads if we need access to different timber stands. It allows us to do things to get to the timber to be able to harvest it.
Curious, $100,000 to fill a well? Like, we did those at Soil and Water for,
And we got soil and water funding for that one.
oh,
We had to do the cremating.
Right, this is Doug's property, yes.
huh.
At the farm out in Rock Creek that had the building full of asbestos bags and how many semi-loads of tires that we had to get.
It was like 8,000 tires, like literally.
And then we had the one in Henriette where we just had to take out the gas tanks and.
And we just demolished that building and,
Yeah, and so without this fund, those costs would have to be paid out of something else.
right, my taxpayer dollars, our tax levy really would be the place we'd have to be looking.
We'd have to levy.
Cause those things, like the blight cleanup, that has to happen.
Nothing's changed on PILT at all that we, since the last time we spoke about PILT, the contributions, payment in lieu of tax given.
On the tax forfeit properties, it is still at the $2 an acre.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, so I don't think we did a motion on that yet. So we need to have a motion to classify the tax forfeited properties as non-conservation so that we can sell them.
I'll move that.
Thanks, Matt.
I'll second.
Thanks, Josh.
And Madam Chair, that's resolution 2024-26.
Thank you. Are there any other questions about this? A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Terry, probation.
Chair, members of the board, Terry Fawcett, Pine County Probation Director. So today is my annual report on what's going on in our probation department. A couple notes. You delivered this clear looking document. Last year during the legislative session, when probation across the state was funded at a level more acceptable than many years prior. With that came some requirements, right? It used to be only CCA agencies had to do a comprehensive plan. So then they said, well, if everybody's gonna get all this new money, all three delivery systems have to do a comprehensive plan, including the Department of Corrections. So that's what this is. It's just to touch on the inside, it's, really good history on Pine County, what the political system is, the judicial officers, Pine County Board, probation staff, training requirements, and so on. Some of the information in this document is some of the same stuff I'll present in a second, but this is far more restrictive. If I was just here to talk about this, it would be much less entertaining, put it that way. So, but this is required. This is why you have the nice one. And we're really going to talk about the outcomes, which is your other document. And this is really kind of probation's way of showing their work, is what we're doing, working, what are the other things that the department's up to? And so that's kind of why you got two different documents and why one is called the comprehensive plan and really this one is the outcomes report. And that's how it'll be going forward in future years now, is because the comprehensive plan is now required by statute for all three delivery systems. So with that, our mission hasn't changed. It's under the direction of the 10th Judicial District and Pine County, is to develop, provide and promote effective probation services that contribute to a safer community. One of the things I take most pride of in our department is we have people that are doing a lot of good things outside of quote unquote just being a PO. We had senior agent receive outstanding performance award last year at the MACPO conference. Another one received a superior service award. I've been reelected as an area rep for Minnesota on the APPA board of directors. Was appointed to the work group on youth interventions, state legislative task force. And then just been reappointed as an at-large member on the MACPO executive board for my third term. Reese and I presented at the National Vera Institute of Justice Conference on restorative justice. I presented at the MCA Juvenile Justice Conference on restorative practices. Reese and I both did some work with University of San Diego. They brought me out there as a panelist to talk about community-led diversion and really the two big things they looked at out there was our work with restorative practices, but also our county tribal relationship and specifically our cultural community coach concept. So, and then, Commissioner Lovegreen, I know at least you're aware that we embarked on this comprehensive system assessment by Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative, and now we're, kind of going down the road of what things we could do better. So stay tuned on that. Two of my senior agents were also selected as statewide trainers in our COG program. I appointed Amber as our department safety officer. She's doing a heck of a job. And then Sherry serves on the state CSTS standards and training committee. It's important. The CSTS is our database for all our probation stuff. So to have somebody from our department serving on that committee is huge. That committee is not real fun to my point, but you got to have people like Sherry that are willing to do that. So, by the way, speaking of Sherry and Jen, on the cover of that comprehensive plan, that's really the work of Jen Frederickson and Sherry Johnson, and with the new logo and stuff on there, I thought that came out really sharp. So, new offender entries on probation, we're down a little bit from the previous year, 497. That paragraph kind of gives you the caveat on that. It's just a snapshot at the end of the year, but it doesn't include pretrial diversion, truancy, RJ cases, or juvenile petty and traffic offenders. And again, those are just new open cases. The type, we had 224 gross misdemeanor.
Can I ask you a quick question on this? So the pretrial, that was going to be a huge take on time. Is that still?
Yeah, and we'll get to that. There's a slide on that one. Yeah, in fact, that's where we put our new agent that we got with that new funding is in that pretrial department, because that continues to be a lot of work for us. 224 new gross misdemeanor cases, 217 misdemeanor and 56 new juvenile cases. Total offenders in 2023 was 1,036 total offenders. Now, again, This is just county probation. This doesn't count our DOC partners. So if you start adding the felons and the ISR or parole cases, that number is going to be much higher. 290 DWI cases, that number is increased, 203 drug cases, and 138 assaults. In those cases, the assault cases have went up as well. Fees collected, again, local corrections fees are to sunset in 2027. This is kind of our breakout on fees. 43,000 in the local corrections fees alone. But then you have pretrial fees, ISP fees, that's for intensive supervision. UA fees are only collected if somebody disputes the fact that their UA is going to be dirty and then it comes back dirty, then we charge them for it. Class fees are your COG skills classes and yep.
Question. So are we gonna be able to hold on to those fees with the new?
Good question.
There was, I was part of that, and we were saying, don't remove the fees. It's specific. They're not. Because you don't charge everybody, space and ability and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But the legislative body said they were gonna whack the fees.
There's a statewide committee that exists right now, and so the different delivery systems, presidents and chairs of their respective delivery systems are on that committee. That's one of the topics. It got really no conversation during this legislative session. Kind of kicked the can down the road for another year.
They're bad as they.
It would be very significant. It's significant to us in a small department in a small county. And I've used this example before. I think Wright County collects like $500,000 in corrections fees. Arrowhead Regional Corrections, 5 counties, $1 million plus. But there's a lot of significant money there. To your point, one of the things that they're analyzing is, do we ever actually waive fees? And I do, and we track it. And so we can produce that number to the folks that are looking at that in the legislature in future years about, is there really ability to waive it if a client doesn't have money?
It's part of it's for accountability too.
Yeah. Again, this was all created. I was a brand new PO. It was about mid-90s, and this came out from the legislature. And then here we are 25 years later, and it's not popular now. So, but significant amount of fees, and these other fees too, by the way, that there's language, what kind of fee? Are we just talking local corrections fees, or are we talking these other type of fees, program fees? Because the program fees offset costs. For example, every time a probation officer does a domestic violence inventory for a client, there's a cost to that. There's a cost to my department. I have to order those tests online, which then they end up doing with the probation officer, and the client do that together. Those aren't free. Whenever we order urinalysis supplies, those aren't free, right? And so some of these other, all they do is there's offsetting costs, and, I've talked about the LEAD, our first time DWI offender class. That one has really allowed the department to move up our training budget just a little bit. So probation officers can go to training during the course of the year. So in a sense, the offenders are paying for POs to be trained. It's not coming out of, a county levy. So those are things that need to be parsed out here in the next few years. Yeah. Out of home placement numbers, I won't really get into this much. That was my last report I gave, but again, 442,282. Average length of placement was 46 days. But again, 7 budget busters accounted for 76% of that cost. 27 others were really just detained for an average of 7 days. So that number speaks really well, I think, of our juvenile agents and the county attorney's office of, right sizing, if you will, the people that are in custody and getting the ones that don't really need to be there, getting them out. And there's just placements broken out in a different way. C5 is our restorative justice program. 110 referrals over time, 91 successful completions. Recidivism, 81 completed this program, 9 recidivated, and our definition of that is a new offense, within 1 year, post completion of the program. So still doing really good there. I'm a little sensitive on that number. It shouldn't even be that high, but I'll give you an example. I had 2 girls in the program, sisters, who had they had any ability to get to school and to get to the program on time, they would have finished. So you get kids with chaotic family life and or poverty, and then sometimes they don't complete the program and it makes you kind of look like the program isn't working. And those kids we worked with for quite a while, the point just came, well, we just can't get a hold of them. We had another kid like that very recently who had been on for 7 months. The average is about 91 days, and this kid was on for quite some time. Some bumps along the road along the way. Some of what I just defined to you was kind of what this kid was going through, but he made it. We were patient with him, and I just sat down with him and his probation officer and the mayor and the city administrator for the city of Hinckley last week. And this kid was able to, make reparations to the city for being a part of a group that caused some damage out in the city park. So it's worth waiting because, that kid just did a heck of a job and I'm very proud of him, but sometimes we just can't get him to the. Some of our details here, the average length is 93 days, I guess. So property, person crimes, pre-charge, and then males are kind of our biggest numbers. So I'm really proud of the fact that we still continue to get kids that are sent to my office pre-charge diversion versus charging them, when appropriate. 11% recidivism rate, 40% American Indian, 55% person offenses, 66% pre-charge. Restitution I like is, since we've started C5, we've collected $15,000 back from kids. Not easy to do. I just had a kid pay over $3,000 some dollars to a victim, and we'll be sitting down in the next week or so with that victim with check in hand. Now the kid will be paid on the mom for a while, but they're being accountable and taking care of their part. And to see victims made whole is a big deal. So pretty happy with that collection rate. Truancy filings, 23 this year, last year. Why do I think we're different in Pine County? Well, this Yeti program, for example, was something that Devin from my office created. Youth education, truancy intervention. The time I did this slide, 18 to 20 that were referred to Yeti have not been referred to truancy probation. That anecdotally is a pretty good number. I think it's even better now. So five out of 24 now have been referred to truancy probation. Problem is always getting them to want to be part of Yeti. So 63 were referred to Yeti and 24 of the 63 actually families attended. So again, sometimes it's not always the kids' fault, right? They're just a product of their environment. We're considering a restorative circle for truants facilitated by probation. More on that probably later this summer as Devin meets with Judge Wynn and the county attorney's office on what can we do to tweak our current model that works, but it's very labor intensive. So we'll see what happens there. Detention and risk assessment. So this is now mandated by the state by law enforcement if the sheriff's department brings a kid down to the juvenile center, this is done by a deputy. Right now, they're just collecting data off that. They won't turn anybody away. We've been doing it at first appearance for several years now. So the probation department and the county attorney's office get together and they do this validated risk assessment to look at, does this person really need to be in the state juvenile center or not? 22% that scored 0 to 10 were detained. 36% that scored 11 to 14 were detained, and 67% of those with a 15 plus number were detained. So in my opinion, I think that 22% of 0 to 10 could be lower. I can surmise that number is at 22% because when a kid is at risk to themselves or others, they're going to get detained. And as uncomfortable as that is, sometimes it's the right decision. Graduated, well, that's that number in a different form. A graduated sanction, so juveniles. So again, we have a whole sanctioning grid, both juvenile and adult, that talks about if a person commits this level of offense, this would be our response to that. And we try to keep those evidence-based, and then we make recommendations to the court on what should happen with that kid based on, or the kid or adult based on that violation. Well, this one would show you the outcomes, where the court disposition and court's recommendation. So almost 99% of the time when a juvenile agent goes and recommends something on a violation probation to the judge is following the probation officer's recommendation. In the adults, the number is a little bit lower, 87%, but still pretty good. Our evening reporting center, that will sunset the end of September 2024. But again, we're looking to take that energy and work that into an RJ and crossover youth development grants for our strategic plan. Again, disappointed that the RJ monies haven't become available yet when that passed a year ago, legislature. So stay tuned on that. 54 referrals, the ERC 22 completion, 7 unsuccessful. 68% come via probation, 21% through children's mental health. Most come there due to behavior, some doing truancy. When truants go there, we are very intentional about trying to separate those truants from the delinquents, so we're not influencing truants with delinquent behavior by mixing kids. So that becomes, just something that we have to continue to look at. Electronic monitoring, again, we'll continue to use this as a strategy. When kids get put on electronic monitoring, they're usually put on GPS. But it resulted in $169,000 in out-of-home placement cost savings this year. It only costs $8,200 to be placed on the monitor. And kids are on for 601 days in 2023. And if you did this since the beginning of when we started using EM for kids, 2009, over $1.8 million, if you calculate that on bed space per day and an average of what bed space costs. So without it, we'd be in a lot of trouble. And to be honest with you, I mean, it's needed. I think kids are a little bit better with it now because it's a GPS. Not as many kids, knock on wood, cut their GPS bracelet off, but it happens. You can say the same for adults, really. But 601 days last year. And there's that $169,000 cost savings this last year. That moves us to our DWI intensive supervision program. Amber Chase oversees this. Michelle Selner works with this population as well. These are our multiple repeat DWI offenders that just haven't reached the felony level yet. Once they get their felony, then they're supervised by the Department of Corrections. So these people are very dangerous. These people are known to law enforcement. And we average about 33 clients annually, 20 successfully completed last year and 8 executed sentenced. Some of those, that execute their sentence usually are by way of, this is too hard. I don't want to stay sober. Just execute my sentence and let me stay in jail. Well, believe it or not, that happens. Historically, 89% of those that have started the program have not committed a new DWI. 2 ISP clients were arrested and convicted for a new DWI in 2023. Again, there's a calculation on the bottom on how you calculate saving jail costs. $284,000 this last year. And it's produced $102,000 in revenue since 2001. 2023, 6% had some type of sanction. either formal or informal, 13% had a formal probation violation, and 56% were enrolled in an ignition interlock program. And our agents do a really good job of working with those clients on how they actually can get on ignition interlock. Ultimately, you want them to stop drinking, and most of them are going to drive. And so driving legally is the goal. And so having agents help them with that. Here's a pretrial stuff, Commissioner. We did 395 bail evaluations last year, equivalent to 28% of an agent's time. So that's still a lot of time for a PO to be sitting down in the jail, asking questions to somebody who's just been arrested. So that includes high risk and pending felony level offenders. And again, once they've been convicted, then if they're a felon, then they get moved on to the Department of Corrections for supervision.
How long does it take to do a bail evaluation for our agent?
It's a good question. I would say roughly an hour. But usually what happens is Sherry or another agent will do the pre-work to it. So when they actually get down there with the client, it takes less time now than if you did it all from scratch. So, and again, that would also depend if the client's in a good mood or not.
Yeah.
Some take longer than others, but
Has this number gone up or is it staying consistent or?
that number is a little bit lower, the 28%. It used to be about 33% of their agent's time, so it's gone down a little bit. We also do bail assessments on some that aren't required by statute. Sometimes we get a request from the bench too. I know this isn't required, but would you guys mind doing a bail study on this type of, on this crime or whatever? So and again, our newest agent is one of our pretrial agents, due to that, high volume. Bail report outcome, 40% were placed on conditional release. So we might do bail assessments on much more than 40%, but only 40% actually get put on conditional release. Sometimes that's because once the judge tells them what the conditions are going to be for being on conditional release, they say, no way, I'll pay the money. I don't want to be supervised. So, and 29% were not placed on conditional release last year. Some of their outcomes, 15% tested positive for drugs or alcohol. We don't always lock somebody up when they test positive for drugs or alcohol. We might bring them in on a violation, and the judge may not send them as well. There's different variables on that, but we know that addiction is part of recovery. And so it just depends on the level of addiction. Is this person using heavy duty drugs? Are they super dangerous? Sometimes those decisions aren't easy for an agent to make. And 24% arrested for new charges while they were on conditional release. 20% had a formal violation filed, and 38% missed a court hearing. So court hearings and missing court hearings you can't violate somebody just because they missed court. That's a nationwide standard. You can't violate somebody because they live in a different county and missed court. So there's some rules behind that. I find that number still high, 38%, because a lot of the court is done via Zoom. So if you're not making court now and it's still at 38%, that might be on you. So our demographics, 24% native, 25% unemployed, 29% had a problematic chemical use. And then this is a new statistic we've been keeping, but 9% of the pretrial population were veterans. So I have a personal interest on that number as we go through the years here. But our COG skills program is called Decision Points, 86% completion rate for people that have went through COG skills this year. 34% who didn't complete the program had some type of a new offense. So that's a telling number to me that you got a better chance of making it in life if you actually go and work on yourself, which COG skills has you work on your thinking errors and the whys, behavior. If you're unwilling to do that, you probably will be back. Our first time BWI funder program was LEAD, implemented in late 2015, 454 adults, 6 kids have completed the program. We've had 60 complete this last year. No reoffenses in the last 2 years. Driving with care level 2, so this is usually our second time DWI offenders. Now we move away from education, so weed is education only. Now we start getting into some of the stuff. I would call this COG light, if you will, right? But this is specifically, this program is specifically designed for people who continue to make the choice to drive after they've been under the influence. So let's try to get at specific. And no reoffenses in the past year. No new DWIs in 2022. So our evidence-based practices work, there's kind of all the progress since 2009. This last year, 2 staff again trained as statewide trainers in both carry guides and decision points. So I'm proud of that. In a small department, we have 2 staff that are willing to go above and beyond and train other areas of the state when needed, because as I know, not a lot of people like to step up to the plate and become trainers. So to have 2 in a department of 10 is a pretty big deal to me. Opportunities, again, Reese and I will continue to attempt to secure some more funding here as we go forward, and then potential revision of our truancy court to have some RJ. So that's all I have. Any questions for me?
Yeah, I do. Sure. Your, for the ERC funding, it's mentioned as was a grant and funds were secured to September 30th of this year. What happens? Is there a chance of getting more grants, or how does it?
Well, probably not in with the ERC specifically. So that was a kind of a national / statewide Office of Justice Programs grant. That grant has already outlived its time in terms of we should only had that grant for about 2 to 3 years. And then because of COVID, it kept getting extended. So, is there any really good reason on why it's going away? Probably not. But Sherry just met with our grant manager, I think last week, and she's kind of working with Sherry on that transition out of that. So that's why I said it's not that we don't value and don't want programming in our community, because we do. And I know if we have a place to refer kids in the community, then we have a better chance of keeping them in the community versus sending them out of home. But I also think that through the RJ work and the data around restorative practices, that if we can get some funding around our C5 and RJ program and then crossover youth development is a way for probation departments and social workers to work closely together when a lot of times we work with these same kids. So rather than work in silos, let's work together and be more efficient and have funding to go along with that. I think would allow us to do more front end work versus the need for the ERC. So it's kind of a trade-off. It's not a perfect answer, you know. But the other thing that was really difficult with the ERC throughout its time has been staffing. To get the part-time people that are really good at their job and want to stay in that position. I think we're on our 4th director. And so, you know, that's tough. And I think now with the other 2 programs, if we get funding, we're dealing about existing staff, not bringing in new contract staff.
So as a funding, is that something you think that will have to be put on the county, like on against our levy?
No, because if the ERC will just go away, we just won't have an ERC. Yeah. There's only 2 evening reporting centers in the state. Hennepin County has the north and south. Pine County has the other one. So this is kind of a new concept, at least regionally. And ERCs were really developed out of Cook County, Illinois. But it was our way, because I just know that we have very few good places to refer anyway.
Right.
So why not try to keep them in our own community? But then you have these other real things like staffing, quality staffing.
Yeah.
So
So to keep it, you know, I mean, there's gonna have to be a looking, a way to look to secure some funding to try to keep it, I guess, right? Yeah.
Correct.
No, I was just curious, one more thing. Page 3, under demographics, there's no males listed, there's female. Is there a reason for that? I'm not familiar with this stuff, so I'm just
What
asking
am I on?
if there's a reason why they're.
Oops, Ryan took me away. Oh, page 3 over here.
Yeah, I mean, we have, just for the demographics, which I'm always curious about demographics and changes in our county. We got under 5, under age 18, over age 65, female percent, and then veteran, there's no male percentage.
Where's your document are you on the formal one?
Yeah, he's in he's not on the outcomes one, he's in the other book.
Yeah, that's a good question. I can get that answer back to you. I couldn't tell you right now.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I know we worked with Leslie on collecting some of that demographic data. So I'm pretty sure we just didn't make it up and came from somewhere, but
Okay.
I can't answer that as we're here today.
So Leslie was the one working on this.
Well, no, we worked on it. We put it into our own document, but
Sure.
Leslie works with that type of stuff far more than we do. So when we started down this process of having to put this document together, I know Sherry reached out to her and say, is there an easier place where we can find some of this stuff? So that's what it's.
I just, like I said, I just like to keep track of current
Yeah.
demographic. I'm sure it's fair to assume if there's 46.8%.
Yeah, but why it's not in there, I don't know.
Yeah, I could figure there's the,
And be honest with you, that document is probably prematurely off the press.
2020.
So if it needs to be tweaked, we can still do that. The issue was this, we were supposed to have that document approved by the Department of Correction. And it wasn't. I mean, I think it's gonna be a rubber stamp, but we wanted to get that document out because I wanted to go along with this presentation as well.
Sure.
And so if there's a cleanup on that page, well,
Yeah.
that's certainly.
Yeah, it says 2022, and then I know there's been talks of this actually being a growing county and.
So that's different. So our outcomes report that we just gave was based on 2023 data. We were specifically instructed by the legislature that that is based off, this is a long. The comp plan is based off of 2022 data.
Gotcha.
So again, that's just when we got that from the Department of Corrections, there was all sorts of directions on what you could have, how much of it you could have, and you couldn't have more than 25 pages, period.
Thanks.
That's why I'm saying it's a restricted document. Now,
Gotcha.
it was nice, but we just presented, I hope.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Terry?
Thank you.
Cannabis updates.
Madam Chair, members of the board, so the 2 sessions ago, the legislature approved the commercial cultivation, manufacture, distribution, retail sale of cannabis. The session that just adjourned on Sunday made at least one change to the cannabis law that I'm aware of that would potentially allow cultivation in 2024. And so we'll have to give a little bit of time to distill all of the new stuff, if any other new stuff was in the legislation. However, now our task is to take this law and figure out what local regulations, if any, you want to include. Some of the things that local governments can do is you can require registration, you can charge a registration fee, you can do a preliminary compliance check, you can require setbacks from schools, playgrounds, treatment facilities, and cities and townships can delegate their authority to the county. And so there's some conversation that we should have with the other jurisdictions to see if they're interested in that. And so the purpose of today's agenda item is to suggest that we could have a information meeting on June 18th as part of the regular board meeting. We could structure that to start at, say, 1 p.m. so that we could invite the cities and the townships to be there. And then we could do it kind of a informal committee of the whole type structure. But the intent there is we would have the county staff, the county attorney, land and resources talk about what the regulations allow and then give folks an opportunity to ask questions and share thoughts and ideas so that we could have, if you did want to do any regulation, you could have those ordinances in place by the end of the year.
Any thoughts?
Well, where do you start?
I know.
So I'm neutral on this whole thing, but what if somebody wants a business, like an egg business, just wants to grow it? That's not a retail. So why would we interfere with that? And there's no regulation on the growing based on population, right? It's just retail. Or maybe growing within 1,000 feet is that, am I interpreting that right?
I'm gonna say if we can wait till the 18th to answer those specific questions, that would be helpful because I don't know the answer
Oh, okay.
off the top of my head.
So I imagine there's some people out there are saying, hey, I want to grow this, right? They have a business of growing.
I believe up in Bruno, there's already a hemp growing operation.
That's probably not,
Fine.
no THC.
I understand that, yeah, but
It's roll,
I mean, it's-
rolls, yeah.
imagine that'd be an easy transition from that crop to
Yeah.
another, I would imagine. I would love to take any information you can get well before
Yeah.
the 18th, just to be prepared for this.
Well, this will be discussed too at the District 1 meeting that's coming up in Carlton. So we'll be able to find out from AMC's point that was there and just see what they have to say. But I think after the last few meetings that we've had too, where we've had people from Royalton that have come, and then Jack came from, Mission Creek, to talk about, I know that there's concern in Royalton. And then Jack coming to support the farmers that want to raise it. There's a lot of questions in the cities and townships. So I think that it would be nice to have a meeting at 1 o'clock where the cities and townships can come, that can be invited and be a part of the discussion so that they have an idea as to what can happen and what they can and can't do. Give them some guidance at the same time.
I agree. I just want us to be careful with intruding, because you're gonna have two sides of this thing, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna wanna grow it. Somebody say, don't you dare grow it, and they have that right under state statute. So we have to find that, it's always finding the balance for us, right? So
Well, the other thing-
I need a lot more information.
We don't have county zoning, so I mean, our hands are tied in some of those areas too, so giving the other cities and townships, what rights they have, then maybe they can make those decisions because they have their own zoning.
And
It would be informational.
yeah, and Madam Chair, one more authority you do have is you can limit it to 1 per 12,500, one retail establishment per 12,500 population. So whether you want to do that or not, you have that option. And so I think it would be important to give us, a few weeks to distill the law, get AMC and other professional associations who are looking at these laws to give their take on what is and is not included, get the information presented, and then you have a fair opportunity to have conversation, discussion, and there can be follow-up before any action is needed.
So is it possible to say, this is just hypothetical, no retailers? So we'd have to have a minimum based on the statutes. That's my point. So that we have to do something. I mean, we can't stop some, right? However you want to look at it. People have a right to do a business.
And I think a big thing that should be tasked with us is to try to get the local units of government, the townships, cities to come to this meeting.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to set myself up for the discussion that's going to happen in that meeting.
Yep.
So I don't know the hard and fast rules that, we have to at least do a minimum, right?
I don't know that
We can
you're
deny it all.
required to do anything.
No, but I mean, allow. You're not going to stop it from happening.
By law, we have to, they can give permits for.
We could take no action, but there's going to meet statute then.
Yes, yeah, if you, presumably the county or any local government could take no action. And the state would handle all of the regulatory requirements in statute that the state's required to handle.
That's what I meant. So the minimum would always apply to us no matter what on the retail.
And if there is any correspondence going back and forth now that could be made available, I can't speak for the rest of the board, but I would I'd love to have everything forwarded to me if there's been any inquiries or people asking about this, both on the agricultural side. Just to research it more before we get to the June 18th.
The only ones I've gotten are the ones that have been at the board meetings. So if you watch last board meeting when you weren't here, you'll see, there were two people that spoke at that one too.
Okay, and then we don't, when people speak at the public forum, I think I've stated before, there's no, other than YouTube, that's the only documentation of it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, last meeting is-
It's noted in the minutes, but
right. Yeah, I was at Lauren Chmielewski's funeral
Yeah,
last
yeah.
meeting. Well, thank you.
I think another thing that, we all need to be thinking about is, we have liquor licenses and we have, tobacco licenses. We need to look at the registration for the county, to register the retail businesses here and then the fees that would, so we need to be forward on that one too. So I don't think that we need a motion for it, but it would probably be good if we did, if we had a motion to have a meeting at 1 o'clock following our June 18th meeting, where we can invite the cities and the townships to come. If we have that designated time, I think it'll be easier for them to make that.
if you're okay, if we just make that a part of the regular meeting.
Right.
So we would recess and then reconvene at 1 PM.
Right.
And it's gonna be here.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll move that.
Thanks, Josh.
What
We're making a motion to have the meeting here at 1 o'clock following our board meeting, the next one, and just reconvene the meeting at 1 so townships and cities.
So the statute is how many pages? Can we get a summary or is there a summary produced by someone we can get?
There will be summaries produced in the coming weeks. AMC will put out a summary. Some others may put out a summary.
I need a second. Thanks, Matt. So we got a motion by Josh, second by Matt. Are there any other questions on this?
Do you think this is too soon?
No, because I don't think it's gonna be the last.
Yeah.
I mean, I think on the 18th, we'll know what we know on the 18th.
Okay.
And there will be unresolved issues on the 18th that we'll have time to continue working towards.
Okay.
Well, and the new law that they just changed where they said that you can do it in 2024, that's in my thinking is the one that's affecting Royalton Township, because that's the gentleman that's going to come in and start producing in Royalton Township. And so, I mean, to be able to get them that information so that they know what they can do or what they can't do would be a good thing. So we have a motion by Josh, a second by Matt. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carried. Designation of Emergency Medical Services Week in Pine County.
It's something we do every year. You know, it's just to acknowledge the EMS, the first responders and all of that, so. I don't have a lot to say about it, but it's all, I know from my career that all those small fire departments that would beat us to a crash scene or something were doing a lot of good work so that we could get there on calls.
I was happy to see that there's some money that went towards EMS and it's for outstate. So it's for the rural EMS that's going to be coming forward. So that was I don't know if it's never enough. Never.
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna come out of that whole
Yeah.
process. Everything got upended this year, so we don't know what's gonna happen yet.
See, but that would be good.
Madam Chair, so it just, since we're on that topic,
Yeah.
so as I understand the law that was passed, the Regional Emergency Medical Services Board that Matt represents Pine County on, those boards will go out of existence and there'll be a state agency created to manage emergency services statewide in a more comprehensive way.
Okay.
And more to come on that, but it sounds like there was a lot of conversation with the funding, but there's so many disparities around the state. How does the state get adequate and equitable funding distributed? So I'm sure, Matt, you have a meeting next week.
The 30th, the Friday, the last Friday of the.
So I presume that you'll come back with, hopefully with some information on how they interpret the new law.
Yes, I'm gonna try to drive over to Weed Park, and sit in person so I don't miss a thing, you know. But, and it's more easy to bang your fist on the table.
Yeah.
than Putting your hand up online. So I don't know, but there's just a lot going on in that, but I will move that resolution, Madam Chair.
2024-25.
Yes.
Motion by Matt, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Josh. A motion by Matt, second by Josh. Are there any questions about this? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Commissioner updates, soil and water.
I missed that.
Kettle River.
We had our meeting, so I'm gonna just give you some short summary because there's just always a lot of talk, but, there's gonna be the joint powers agreement and a resolution that's gonna go up to all the, Snake Rivers and everybody, and the joint powers agreement, and whether you want to be a part of the plan. So, because some people don't want to be part of the agreement, but they want to still have the water plan accessibility dollars, and they'll deal with it as it comes, as on a contract basis. So there's gonna be two resolutions coming with options. You get them already?
The next meeting.
Yeah, they're gonna be coming, but so to set your head to it. And the other one's gonna be a resolution that says we'll be part of the joint powers agreement, which is a collaborative type agreement, and will be part of the plan, which we should, what we do, because we are administrating that plan. So anyway, but a lot of discussion on that, explanations from Kinnevic and parcel there. And then we had a discussion on getting our bylaws all done. We have to get them done. I think we're gonna start July 11th. I think we'll get it done. So not reinvent the wheel, but that was pretty much it.
Okay.
And we set our preliminary budget. I'll find it.
Okay. Good. Chemical Health Coalition, we have $15,840 in the account for Chemical Coalition. We have the new thing, it's a youth grant that they set up with the opioid money to help it so that the kids can do some things that are more productive and not just sit around and get into the other stuff. Out of that, we had $50,000 that the board said that we would set aside for that. And they have spent $44,644 of that already. They've had 75 applications and they've approved 44 of them. They've denied 19, 27 are complete, 13 need to get paperwork back to us. So, I mean, they've had some amazing projects. They've done from jerseys to safe sitter babysitting classes, mission trips for youth groups, soccer equipment, basketball, Special Olympics, Wolf Ridge. So, I mean, they've done a lot of really, really good stuff in there. And then DeTerra came and talked to us. They're a drug disposal. And I think that the county has used them before. Yes, thank you. And so they came to just talk to us about using them again and brought their bags and
Are
stuff.
they purchasing the bags again like we did before?
Yes, yeah, that's one of the things that they were talking about. One of the things that they did talk about while they were doing their presentation is that 2,500 kids abuse prescription drugs for the first time every day. That's a huge number of kids.
Are you getting updates on the overdoses still?
No. No. And I don't even know, on those overdoses, how many of them we would get, because there's the Narcan out there, so we don't know of.
I know, yeah, so are we still doing Jeff, sorry, you don't have to stand. But I missed the last couple of meetings, but I know we started at EMS where if our officers go to a overdose call, they can enter that on that mapping. So it goes into the system, do they have it on their phone? Are they doing that?
Yeah.
Okay, because that helps a lot, for the.
And for those that are interested, those numbers get reported through EMS and law enforcement on the first responders. Then I know in the hospitals, there's a different subset that gets affected too. So there's a lot of different numbers involved and they don't all correlate.
And it's supposed to be one.
Well, on that system, it's
Okay.
pretty good, but again, if they never use 911, there's no ambulance for law enforcement, but they get to the hospital, the Department of Health is keeping their own.
Oh, yeah.
So we're, again, the numbers are all out there, pretty public for, the state's got together each county, you can go down to each county. There is a lot of data out there, I can continue, right, and we do send it to, public health side. But again,
Thanks, John. So then I have one more.
Yeah, no, go.
So I keep missing this meeting. So, are they planning any in that opioid dollars, doing anything like a program like Lake Nina, specific sites where they could maybe have an educational thing or something like that?
I don't know if they're looking at going out to.
I know, so I don't even know how you would set it up, but you would have to have somebody out there willing to make it happen.
Right, we were talking about, walk in the woods, meeting with people down in the jail.
Yeah.
And then, helping them to set up, plans so that when they get out of jail, they can.
I know.
Do a success.
I'd like to hit them kids though,
Right,
before they do the first one.
I know,
That's where the impact, I think, and I think that's where a lot of money is spent.
right. And I know Lake Lena has a really good after-school program, and I don't know if they moved it from Lake Lena all into Hinkley, but they bus kids all over the place. So.
And I don't mean to target a group, but it's just, then we have them somewhere else too.
I know that they've been talking about doing some of those, but I guess my.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. It's just that's just something, some way, somehow.
Yeah,
It just had to be a brainstorming event to me to try to get out there.
well, and it's so hard because, we need it in Carrick and we need it in, we need it all over the place and we've got such a huge county. So yeah, trying to figure out what to do and how to best serve.
No, I'm sure it would be someone like maybe a Pine County investigator that deals with, could be part of the group, and then you could have it just doesn't have to be a big deal, but just something
Right.
for information. And this is what's going to happen to you.
Yeah,
And it could be one time and you're gone.
Yeah.
Where's Lake Lena?
Lake Lena is way out east of Hinkley. Yeah, just right before you get to the border, there's, I can't think of the name of the road, but you go north.
Grace Lake Road.
Grace Lake Road, okay. Yeah, they've got a really nice, there's a lot of housing out there. And then they've got a lot of their tribal headquarters. I think they've got a school out there, a medical facility.
Community Center.
Community center, yeah, it's.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yep. Central Minnesota Jobs and Training, we talked about things like who are we gonna have for health insurance now, which they're going to be going to Blue Cross Blue Shield. We're changing the CEO to administrator and just changing the name of the administrator to administrator and taking the name CEO on. Talked about grant management, it's a basic meeting. East Central Solid Waste, we don't have Steve. The library, we talked about the summer programs. We talked about the CMLE, we had done that last year where they came in and they're actually in Cambridge now, so we're getting money from the CMLE to facilitate them. And so we're looking at redoing that contract, which is nice because it pays, we get that extra income that comes with that. Talked about the legislative issues. They're doing a thing now, access to library materials. And what can or can't be there, and they said that it's going to be workable, but I don't know what it entails. So it'll be interesting to see what that actually is going to be when it's finished.
I'm always fascinated with the transition libraries. They're in the middle of this thing, or we all are, right? Digital versus paper.
Yeah.
Where's that going to end up in 25 years?
Yeah, I don't know. Their digital has really gone up on people checking out digital books instead of the books, but the libraries are still crazy busy.
They give you numbers every time?
I can get them.
Yeah.
I can get them. Yeah, they give them to us in our yearly reports, but I can get them again. We had a meeting in Pine City. We ended up having it at the old courthouse because the DOT has their licensing things at the library. They rent that room and they have that there every Monday. And so we couldn't have our meeting there. So we had it at the old courthouse right by my old desk. No. Like, oh, that's where I started work here. Arrowhead,
I missed it, and it was gonna be a good meeting too. Cause the updates are happening with John and there's some other stuff going on. I think we'll get it at District 1. We'll get most of that data from. Cause we'll be at the.
Mason Pines. We don't have Steve. Are there anybody with others? I have a couple others. So we are meeting tomorrow down at Jackpot Junction with, it's going to be AMC, some county employees and some county commissioners, and then tribal. So they're having their tribal conference down at Jackpot Junction, and then we're gonna be part of that, and we're gonna have dinner and an after dinner meeting to talk about ICWA and to figure out how we can work together for ICWA. One of the things that they talked about was the good stories, you know, the outcomes, instead of looking at being compliant. And they use Pine County as an example. So we had a child that really wanted to go live with grandma. Grandma really wanted this child to go live with them. However, the housing that grandma lived in, they couldn't go there because she was in the elder housing, and she was on the list to get into another house so that she could have her grandson. But it wasn't working out because he had to wait for an opening, right? So.
Make it happen. Make it happen.
Well, so I mean, it's kind of that sit and wait, but in the meantime, she needed to be CPR trained, and Becky drove and picked her up and took her to her it was CPR, right? I have CPR in my brain. It took her to her training and then took her back home again because grandma didn't have a way to transport herself. So all the things that our staff does above and beyond to make sure that we're being helpful and that we're accommodating and making sure that things happen. It all ended up working out, and he went to live with grandma. He would be in other homes and it was a horrible situation. He would be with grandma and it was phenomenal. So, but for them to use Pine County as a success story is always huge.
So is that we've always worked pretty well with the tribe, I thought. Or, you know, historically, I mean, I know there's difficulties, but we always get the work done.
Right. Well, and this is one. So I think we were at, I have like 76% in my head, but I'm wrong a lot. So don't take that number for granted. But we were not compliant, you know, because one of them was because we couldn't get him moved in with grandma, but that wasn't our hand, you know, that our hands were tied on that. So when you look at the fact that we're non-compliant, we failed, but we really succeeded.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so trying to get the tribes to look at that, you know, it was an amazing success story. However, we were non-compliant. So we need to figure out how to get everybody to do a different look and a different take on what's going on. St. Louis County hired 3 full-time staff just to work on ICWA. I mean, that's solely all that they do. And they were still at 97%, you know, because e-box didn't get checked or something, you know, it just takes one little thing to knock you down. So you look at the money that they've spent to be compliant and to do everything that they can because the spirit of it was alive and we all believe it, you know, but.
Well, those rules are
They're 40 years old.
yeah, but they're good rules, but they're hard. It's hard to meet some of the stuff.
Right, right. So that was, that's what we're going to be doing. So that will be tomorrow. Dave and Becky and I will be going down for that meeting. And then Truancy Subcommittee was meeting with the judge and human services and probation schools. They had referrals. There were 12 plus, 38 filed were 21. They were talking that Terry brought it up today that they need to figure out a different way. Right now, they've got truancy court where they go to the schools, but it's so demanding for the judges and probation and our attorneys. So just trying to figure out different ways that they can take care of that also. It'll be interesting. Yeti is doing great. Devin brought that one up and did that. So that was really good. And then rural caucus action. A lot of the conversation that they had was on rural roads, which brought up the Highway 23 here conversation, and they're having their meeting tomorrow. But I got a phone call from Joe from Stearns County after that. And he's really pushing that we can see how we can get Highway 23 done. And he, they're doing all the Band-Aids on 23. So like right now from Ogilvy to Malacca, they're gonna be closing the roads down and doing 2 bridges and all of this stuff, but they're not gonna be doing the 4 lanes. It's gonna be a Band-Aid. And so how can we get them beyond the Band-Aid? If they fix that road, are they gonna look at it for another 20 years? Probably not. So just trying to figure out how to deal with that and work forward with that.
Well, bridges are the big money and they last a long time.
Right.
They
right.
cost so much.
But yeah, and if you make it for 2 cars and not 4, you're doing that. And then Public Health Advisory, that was meeting with, it's got a lot of local people that are in there. And so it's kind of fun to hear what they have to say. So we talked a lot about farm to table. They're working on getting those in the schools. Pine City School is going to be starting to have a garden. I know Hinkley's got one. I don't know about the other ones. How can we get more fruit bushes or trees grown around the county? I was talking about Ukraine. In Ukraine, there's fruit trees everywhere. I mean, you just walk and the kids walk and they're just mowing on fruit all the time. They are everywhere. And it's like, how can we do more of that here? Start planting the fruit bushes or trees in the roadways or whatever, just to help get people eating healthier.
Country of Ukraine?
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty, I think that's one of the things that we came home with was just how the fruit trees were everywhere and the kids, everybody would just go out and, wow, it was pretty cool. And then AI, I'm one of the ones that are scared about AI, I'll be honest. They were talking about it's going to be a really easy way to get hacked. And a lot of the things when you ask a question, it stores that, and then anybody can see that. So we really, really have to be conscientious about what we put into that. We can't put anything that has anything to do with anybody in our county or whatever, because it doesn't go away. So I'm one of the people that are scared of AI. I'll admit it. And then Parks and Trails was yesterday, and that was just trying to figure out memberships and that type of stuff. They said that it was no bonding bill. They did pass money for Parks and Trails, about 5 million. And so they were talking about that. And then they've got a July 17th meeting down in Upriver. And that's going to be the big meeting is coming up. So that's what I had. Nobody else had anything? All right, with no other business.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
If you have one other, do we want to talk about the district meeting coming up next week?
Yes.
And there are, the session just adjourned and I want to already start talking about the next one. So this past session, Representative Dotseth had introduced a bill to do a study to reopen the C.C. Andrews Nursery.
Yeah.
And I don't think the bill had a hearing, but in our region, that might be something of interest. And so we might want to have a conversation with our neighboring counties on that if we're interested in next session, trying to get something going on that. And then in 2019, Senator Rarick had issued a bill on the casino sales tax to increase the percent that came to the counties from 10% to 20%. We've got some counties in our region, Carlton and St. Louis, that benefit from that. I'm just wondering if there's an interest in trying to develop support for that going into, I guess, the fall policy conference where the AMC would be making its priorities.
I think one of the nice parts about that one is that Mille Lacs Band is in support of that too, and they're willing to work with us on that, which is good.
Well, the nursery one should be easy. The state didn't even have pine trees available for the tree sale. Because they're not.
So is that a yes, that we'll bring those things up at the district meetings next week?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. We can talk to Julie a little bit about that tomorrow too. All right, with no further business.